of all arrests that were ordered by the DPP on 30th May 2018 with regard to the alleged forgery of transfer documents regarding the said parcel of land being effected. Command 3, within which timelines shall the investigations be completed so as to accord justice and land restoration to Mrs. Akunga, who holds the grant of letters of administration in the state in view of the fact that the irregular and the illegal dispossession has left her and her family desolate and impoverished. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That will be replied to. No, that is for written reply by the Director of Public Prosecution. For the question by Honorable Nyamita is deferred to another sitting. So we go now to statements, honorable members, and we'll start with the Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Labor, Social Welfare, and Social Welfare. Where is the chair? Honorable Mwadhi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The following statement was sought by Honorable Peter Katana, MP Kaloleni constituency, pursuant to Standing Order 44-2C, and this is in regard to disbursement of funds from the cash transfer program in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We confirm that the ministry was allocated Kenya shillings 10 billion for purpose of cushioning the elderly citizens, orphans, and other vulnerable members of society from the effects.
Order. Who are these members? Is that the member for Gilgil? Order. Let's give an opportunity, Honorable Mwadhi, to do what he's doing. Proceed, Honorable Mwadhi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me take that again. We confirm that the ministry was allocated Kenya shillings 10 million for the purpose of cushioning the elderly citizens, orphans, and other vulnerable members of society from the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. The funds were made available during Supplementary Budget 2 in the 2019-2020 financial year that was appropriated in March 2020. Given that this was already at the fourth quarter of the financial year, and in order to ensure that the deserving citizens were quickly identified, the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection worked closely with the Ministries of Interior and Health, multi-agency teams, both at the headquarters and field levels, leveraging on the institutional arrangements of Ministry of Interior through regional commissioners, county commissioners, deputy county commissioners, up to chiefs and Nyumba Kumi cluster heads. The inclusion of Ministry of Health through their community health volunteers was to ensure that the various Ministry of Health guidelines and protocols are adhered to so that the would-be beneficiaries are not exposed to COVID-19 effects during identification. The Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, via the county and sub-county officers, together with the constituency social assistance committees, other agencies and stakeholders, were critical in enhancing the credibility of the identification process. The multi-agency teams were guided by the following criteria. 1, households with a high poverty index and where the head or the breadwinner is disabled. 2, households with a high and where the head or the breadwinner is widowed. 3, households with a high poverty index and where the head or the breadwinner is a minor, and that's to say orphans or child-led households. 4, households with a high poverty index and where the head or the breadwinner is suffering from pre-existing medical condition, e.g. HIV, cancer, and so on. 5, households with a high poverty index and where the head or the breadwinner is mentally unsound and or vulnerable. 6, households not benefiting from other government support programs. And finally, majorly selected from urban informal settlements that are hard hit by coronavirus pandemic. The identification exercise was divided into 3 phases, namely phase 1, which targeted those in the initial 4 lockdown countries of Nairobi, Mombasa, Kwale, and Kilifi, where a total of 85,300 were reached. Phase 2 targeted a further 17 counties of Nakuru, Kirinyaga, Meru, Kakamega, Embu, Kiambu, Nyeri, Uasin Gishu, Kisumu, Murang'a, Kajiado, Kisii, Machakos, Mandera, Tharaka Nithi, Nyamira, and Migori, which at the moment are having a total of 180,800 households identified into the program with additions from the upscale, which is phase 3. And the phase 3 has scaled up the program to 26 remaining counties of Baringo, Bomet, Goma, Busia, Elgeyo Marakwet, Garissa, Homa Bay, Isiolo, Kericho, Kitui, Laikipia, Lamu, Makueni, Marsabit, Nandi, Narok, Nyandarua, Samburu, Siaya, Taita Taveta, Tana River, Trans Nzoia, Turkana, Vihiga, Wajir, and West Pokot. Honorable Speaker, under this phase, the program seeks to introduce an additional 400,000 new households into the program. Currently, 75,858 of the intended 400,000 new houses have already been targeted into the program. The program aims at reaching a total population of 669,000 households across all the 290 constituencies in the 47 counties in Kenya. The current payroll figure stands at 341,958 households. Targeting is still ongoing for the remaining balance of 327,042 households into the program, who will be paid up to the first week of October 2020. Now, the disbursement of funds. Honorable Speaker, the State Department for Interior and Coordination of National Government has a contract with Safaricom for M-Pesa payment platform, where up to Kenya shillings 1,000 is transacted free of charges in their platform. Leveraging on this, the multi-agency team, which with the concurrence of the National Treasury, agreed that funds will be channeled through the State Department for Interior to the identified beneficiaries. For this purpose, the State Department for Social Protection made 3 funds transfers and authority to incur expenditure, that's AIEs, totaling Kenya shillings 10 billion as follows. Phase 1, a transfer of 1.3 billion. Phase 2, a transfer of 2.4 billion. And phase 3, a transfer of Kenya shillings 5.64 billion. Honorable Speaker, the COVID-19 Response Fund Program is being implemented by a multi-agency team, which aims to cover all the 290 constituencies in the 47 counties. Enrollment and targeting of the phase 3 beneficiaries is still ongoing in the remaining 26 counties. Detailed analysis of statistical data on coverage and beneficiary distribution per county is being worked on and be ready once the registration of phase 3 beneficiaries is complete. Issue number 2 was, what are the mode or channel of disbursements to the vulnerable persons? Honorable Speaker, the money is disbursed to the enrolled beneficiaries through Safaricom M-Pesa system via beneficiaries' registered mobile number captured during registration. Beneficiaries are paid a weekly stipend of 1,000 by the State Department of Interior and Coordination of National Government. It is projected that this payment shall continue until the first week of October 2020. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much for that detailed statement. And I think because of how detailed it is, I do not see quite a lot of members who are interested in. But I could give the member who, let me give Honorable Danita Gatti.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I thank also the chair of the committee for that elaborate undertaking. Mr. Speaker, sir, the issue of cash transfer, especially in this period of COVID-19, Mr. Speaker, is an issue that has really brought a lot of, there has been quite a lot of mistrust, Mr. Speaker, and especially from our counties. Mr. Speaker, on this behalf, I speak for the county of Migori. Mr. Speaker, I have listened to the chair, and the chair, Honorable Mwathe, has basically said that the county of Migori, which is my county, Mr. Speaker, is in phase 2. And Mr. Speaker, one of the criteria that he has mentioned is the criteria of saying that this cash transfer is actually to go through, one of the criteria is basically to go to households that has persons with disabilities as the, the head or the, the breadwinner. And Mr. Speaker, on behalf of that criteria, there is persons with disabilities in this country. Mr. Speaker, I just came from my county, which is the county of Migori. And Mr. Speaker, I can authoritatively state that this criteria that is actually looking at persons with disabilities who are households, who are actually breadwinners, those categories, Mr. Speaker, is a category that is not, seriously considered. And Mr. Speaker, for me, as the member for persons with disabilities, Mr. Speaker, I would wish the chair to actually, maybe moving forward, the chair to elaborate how many of those households that have persons with disabilities as their breadwinners basically got the funds. Mr. Speaker, sir, the whole criteria of using, the Ministry of Interior, for me, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Interior trickles it down to the county commissioner, to the chiefs and the nyumbakumis. And Mr. Speaker, from experience, from my own experience, on behalf of persons with disabilities, the chiefs and the county commissioner and the deputy county commissioner, Mr. Speaker, they do not understand so well about persons with disabilities. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, sir, we members who went to the National Council, we said that the county commissioner plus the Ministry of Interior, Mr. Speaker, because that is a line that has been followed, should actually not only just use the chiefs. We must also use the officers of persons with disability, National Council, in counties so that they are able to identify their own persons with disabilities who are actually in the villages and not leave it to the chiefs. Because, Mr. Speaker, from experience, chiefs do not even understand this persons with disabilities. So, Mr. Speaker, having said that, I want the chair of Labour to basically, as we move forward, because I will also bring this question, to enable the chair of Labour to bring a breakdown of households that are headed by persons with disabilities that actually received this cash transfer program, Mr. Speaker, this funding, because they are not there. They are not receiving.
Order. Honorable Danita, you have actually debated. I mean, you have.
No, but it is a good presentation, Mr. Speaker. Only that persons with disabilities are not feeling the effect of that the COVID funding, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, thank you. Order. Who is this member who is not keeping social distance? That must be honorable member for. Well, I can't see, but it's a member with a black face mask. I can't be able to note him. But whoever it is, please keep distance from the leader of majority. You must protect the leader of majority, by all means. Now we go to the next member, the last one on this, member for Gilgil.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to thank the chair for that very comprehensive report. But, Mr. Speaker, this issue of funds transfer, or cash transfer as it is called, Mr. Speaker, has a lot of issues, especially during this pandemic season, Mr. Speaker. For one, even the money that goes to, say, the elderly, the orphaned and vulnerable children, Mr. Speaker, this list has not been updated, I don't know, for the last 2 years, for the last 3 years. We have talked about cleaning up the list. I will tell you, in my constituency, I have so many people, even the elderly, who are over 70 years and don't receive the money from the government. Why? For the last 3 years, they have not been registered. We have people who have died, Mr. Speaker. These replacements are not done, Mr. Speaker. It is not timely. Others have attained 70 years, have not been registered. And Mr. Speaker, every day we talk about these issues in the constituencies. The chair, Mr. Speaker, therefore, needs to actually explain to the House or table to the House when was the list last updated, why is it not done periodically, and Mr. Speaker, more importantly, this issue of people going to queue to get their monies, especially in my constituency. You know when their elderly are going to pick their money, they queue a whole day, then they still don't get it. Okay. This M-Pesa needs to be done properly so that they don't have to come all the way from Congasis to come to town to take the money. You spend 1,000, you have not eaten, and you still get 4,000 to go home with. I think it needs to be done very well, Mr. Speaker. And the issue of persons with disabilities to support Honorable Denita Gatti. We have children, we have caregivers that have children with disability. I have a family in my constituency, somewhere called Karunga, in Shokereria. She has 3 disabled children. That mother cannot go to work, cannot go to get money to feed these children. But if you consider that you'll only give the homesteads that are led by a person with disability, where do you leave these other ones? How do they take care of these persons with disabilities? How do they take care of these children? That criteria must be challenged. It should actually be focused to not only the breadwinners, but even the children and caregivers of people with disabilities.
Okay.
That, Mr. Speaker, will make more sense. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I hope the Chair Labour has noted all those issues, the issues of people with persons with disability, and the issue of also the timely disbursement and changes when including death. I think, members, that should be enough, really. I can see there's quite a lot of interest in this particular one. So I am trying to, let's have the member, top here is Honorable Amalwa. Where is he there?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, I really want to thank the chairman.
And let's be brief, Dr. Amalwa, so that we...
Yeah, that's true. I don't have much to say, Mr. Speaker.
I even suspect that your voice is not very clear today, having seen what you are doing during the weekend. Proceed.
During the weekend, Mr. Speaker, as the Luya Nation, we are undergoing through circumcision ceremony, so I was busy at home with my people. Mr. Speaker, this issue of cash transfer, it is something that is very important, Mr. Speaker, that the committee should look at the issues of timely disbursement. And we should change the methodology of disbursement, Mr. Speaker. When you go to other jurisdictions, for example, in the US, where they give money, this issue of cash transfer, we should use the M-Pesa. M-Pesa, Mr. Speaker, has stood the test of the times. This is the best timing so that we avoid the elderly people and even the people who are disabled for traveling 20, 40, 100 kilometers. It doesn't make sense, Mr. Speaker. You spend 2,000 on transport to go and get the 3,000. So we should look for a framework. Maybe they can partner with Safaricom or Airtel for this disbursement so that it's convenient to be to the village as much as possible, Mr. Speaker. Okay. Otherwise, it's a good initiative, and we appreciate it. I thank you.
Honorable Masara, and by the way, honorable members, you are asked to keep social distance and use your masks, even at home, because it has direct effect on you are coming back here. So even as you do whatever you are doing, Honorable Amalwa, if you have to be the one leading and becoming the soloist, you must be as far as possible from the rest of the community.
Thank you.
Proceed, the Honorable Masara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to the ongoing debate. Mr. Speaker, first I want to appreciate the chairman for the comprehensive report he has given these hours. But Mr. Speaker, I have a concern. One, the criteria used to identify these people who benefit from this cash transfer. Two, I have to add my voice on whatever the Honorable Denita Gatti has just mentioned. In my constituency, there are a lot of people living with a disability. Actually, I have the figures. They have their own association. Out of those over 676, only 14 are benefiting, means over 600 are not benefiting, Mr. Speaker. I want to say that they need, the people concerned need to scale up means and ways of identifying these people, but as well, the issue of the timely disbursement. When there are families who rely squarely on this cash transfer, but at times it goes 3 to 4 months without this money. During such a time, these families are really suffering. Okay. I'm proposing that in future, maybe committees should be established within sub-counties to be monitoring and updating the National Committee on the same. But above all, on the issue of registration.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Honorable Iringo, very brief so that we can.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't want to repeat what my colleagues have said because whatever points they have raised, Mr. Speaker, are very pertinent. But, Mr. Speaker, let me emphasize the fact that despite that this fund is quite welcome and it really assists our vulnerable people in the community, the mode of identifying these people is the very wanting, and especially those officers who are supposed to do it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as many have said, we have got a problem